It's Wednesday, April 6th, and this is now on HNN.
I'm just so excited that we can actually see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Once Japan drops its COVID restrictions, experts predict a wave of visitors to Hawaii.
The virus, which has shown its ability to change over time.
A top FDA official is warning we could see another COVID surge later this year. Amelise Preston with a look at the booster shot debate, and the area is seeing an uptick in cases.
The student loan system is broken.
President Biden extends the student loan pause. We'll take a closer look at the impacts of the student debt crisis here in Hawaii.
There has to be a better way than an outright ban.
Mayor Blangiardi approves a ban on certain commercial activities at some windward parks. Those details are coming up on This Is Now. Happy noon hour to you. Thanks for having lunch with us here in the H&N Digital Center. You got Jonathan and Ashley. Hope you're having a good one.
That's right. The White House is extending a pandemic-era freeze on federal student loan payments. That's today's Talker Story.
This is a really, really big issue, and we want to bring in now Casey Lund to break down all the numbers for us to explain exactly why. Casey, how many people are impacted by this move?
So this change will allow around 43 million people that have federal student loans to delay those payments. And right now that is a huge deal for people that are still struggling from the pandemic. They don't have to start repaying those back until now, August 31st. This all began when the pandemic started, the delay, and is supposed to expire on May 1. Still in limbo right now, though, the effort to completely cancel some loans. Biden today did not mention anything about student loan forgiveness as a possibility, though he campaigned on that, canceling $10,000 in student loan debt per borrower. It's not immediately clear what the administration's plans were beyond August. Right now, the U.S. has a record-breaking amount of student debt, $1.73 trillion to be exact. Wallet Hub recently compared the 50 states and the District of Columbia to determine which states struggle the most with student debt. Hawaii ranked around 41. Number 1 was West Virginia. In Hawaii, the average student borrower, back in 2019 anyway, had around $23,000 of student loan debt on average.
So, Casey, since the freeze began, how many people have not been paying on their loans?
The data that we have in shows that around 36 million people have opted to not be paying their student loans since March of 2020, around $195 billion so far. The Student Debt Crisis Center and Savvy surveyed more than 23,000 borrowers and found that 92% of those now fully employed are concerned about making their loan payments. Here's the executive director of the Student Debt Crisis Center.
1/3 of those borrowers told us that in preparation of payments resuming in May, they are skimping out on basic needs like food, rent, and healthcare. I think we can all agree, no matter what side of the aisle you're on, that the student loan system is broken.
And I wanted to give some advice, and some experts in the field say borrowers should use this time to plan ahead, have a strategy when you do have to start repaying those if things continue on the path that they're at right now. Again, that'll be August 31st. Here are some tips from those experts. Sign up for AutoPay. Update all your information, your account information, your address. Be ready so that you don't miss those payments, and that will ding you on your credit report, something I learned from experience. And of course, Jonathan, I think what's important to note here is this is not for all borrowers, right? This is for federal student loans that have not been refinanced with a private organization, something that I have learned the hard way. Those people still are on the hook unless you had worked something out during the pandemic with your private student loan servicer. Another tip from experts is that you should really be careful if you're a current student about how much money you pull out in those loans. Again, something I wish I would have learned when I was in school. The rule of thumb from a lot of the people that are experts in the field say that you shouldn't borrow any more than you expect to make in your first year's salary after graduation.
You're not alone, Casey. A lot of people learning the hard way with this, that's for sure. All right, let's toss it back over to Ashley with more news.
Now to the weekly coronavirus numbers. The state health department is reporting 1,194 new COVID infections and 3 additional fatalities. The latest numbers bring the statewide case total since the start of the pandemic to 241,972. The COVID death toll is now at 1,382. The CDC is no longer predicting new COVID-19 hospitalizations will continue their decline in the coming weeks, but the agency does expect fatalities will continue to fall. Elise Preston has more.
The United States could see another major wave of COVID-19 this fall and winter. The FDA's vaccine chief said Wednesday there are at least 3 factors putting us at risk.
The virus, which has shown its ability to change over time, to evade our immune systems, will have had at least 6 more months to further evolve.
Dr. Peter Marks cited waning vaccine protection and the onset of colder weather as other factors. The warning comes amid an FDA discussion about strategy for future booster shot campaigns.
We're not saying which population necessarily needs to be boosted come next fall, winter. I think that's for the committee to discuss.
The CDC says a subvariant of Omicron called BA.2 is now the dominant strain in the United States. In the area around Syracuse, New York, where cases have been rising for weeks, the uptick isn't holding back travel plans.
I'm comfortable, I'm fully vaccinated, I'm boosted.
With the government lifting most COVID restrictions, health experts say it's up to each individual to assess their own personal risk.
The only people we can ultimately trust are ourselves, and knowing that we can do the right thing, we can get vaccinated. If we have symptoms, we can get tested.
Here on Broadway, positive COVID tests have sideline actor Matthew Broderick in the revival of Plaza Suite, as well as Daniel Craig in a new production of Macbeth. In California, some downward trends have stalled, with San Francisco logging the highest rate of new infections. But health experts say cases are still way lower than the height of the winter surge. Elise Preston, CBS News, New York.
Mayor Blangiardi signed a bill banning most commercial activity at city beach parks from Waimanalo to Makapu'u. That includes tour stops, weddings, and professional photo shoots.
Now our enforcers, if it be city or state run or community affiliated, I believe that it makes it a little bit more clearer to distinguish between who should be there and who shouldn't be.
But the bill still has some exemptions for permitted film and TV productions. Supporters of this bill who've been fighting for this past decade are thrilled, but opponents were hoping for a compromise, and that never happened. The Oahu Wedding Association said it's outraged.
I think right now we're still just kind of letting the news hit us and are planning to figure out our next steps. This is not it. You know, we definitely want to be able to work together with the city and county and the state to find a better solution. You know, there has to be a way that small businesses who, you know, we pay our taxes, we pay for permits to do business on the beach. There has to be a better way than an outright ban.
In a statement, Mayor Blangiardi said he had to take action because a commercial ban in Kailua has been pushing unregulated activity to other parks.
Now for the latest developments on the war on Ukraine, we're joined now by Greta Van Susteren. She's Hawaii News Now's chief national political analyst. Now, Greta, what do we know about the current situation on the ground in Ukraine?
Well, there are 2 issues. One is the what the Russian troops are doing. It appears they have left Kyiv and that they have abandoned sort of the northern route and that they have swung around and they're concentrating on the eastern route, the eastern part of Ukraine. They have not lowered the level of atrocities. We're also hearing that the humanitarian crisis is big. You've got issues like food. People can't get food. They're hungry. They can't get medicine. But even more than that, you hear about the vicious executions by the Russians. The President Zelensky of Ukraine visited a town about 2 or 3 days ago, and he was talking about genocide because there are bodies that are just left in the street. And you hear little stories about people just coming up and having their hands tied behind their back and being executed. And then, of course, there's the stories of the 300 children in the theater who were bombed when the theater clearly said children on it to the planes overhead. And then now today reports that a mobile crematorium is going into Mariupol, which is the city that has been utterly devastated, and what's happened to the people unthinkable. And what people believe is that the Russians are using a mobile crematorium to get rid of some of the bodies so that it does not appear that they are as savage and the numbers are as high as most people predict or think they are. So it is a very bleak situation on the ground.
Yeah, absolutely awful. Now, President Biden is imposing new sanctions against Russia. Who do they target?
Well, today they target the biggest bank, the biggest financial institution as well in Russia. Interesting that he is also levying sanctions on President Putin's 2 adult children, daughters, and Foreign Minister Lavrov's wife and his daughter. So they're spreading out a little bit more, hitting more officials. And the whole idea is that the more you strangle economically and cripple, that the more likely someone can get to Putin and say, look, you got to stop this. And so they're imposing more sanctions. So an interesting thing that's sort of like a sanction is the UN General Assembly is voting whether to expel Russia from, or suspend Russia from the Human Rights Council. Can you believe it? The Human Rights Council, Russia's on it, but indeed they are. So that's another thing that's being done, is to look at, and the U.S., of course, it's sort of a form of a sanction. U.S. says it will not participate in any G20 events that involve Russia. So it's just, from a United States standpoint, is they're doing everything they can to cripple the economy of Russia, to make it very, very difficult for Russia to operate. At the same time, not escalate it so that Russia says NATO is involved, and then of course use his weapons. That what we don't want to talk about is he has nuclear weapons, and nobody wants to talk about that, and for good reason.
Yeah. Other than the U.S., are any other nations taking action against Russia?
Well, they all are. I mean, sometimes Europeans impose sanctions and we follow. The sanctions that we imposed today, I think the UK followed right after we did. There's discussion among some of the major importers of Russian natural gas to eliminate their imports. Of course, another sanction the U.S. imposed today is a ban on any sort of Russian investments. I was actually surprised to read that. I thought we'd done that a while ago. But anyway, that's another one. But getting back to European nations, Russia has been like a gas station for Europe. And so now they're cutting back, what they're going to import. Maybe they'll go down to zero, but that will also have an effect of crippling the economy of Russia.
All right, Hawaii News Now's Chief National Political Analyst Greta Van Susteren. Appreciate the time, Greta.
The state's largest international visitors market, Japan, is expected to fully reopen in months. Japanese travel officials told state leaders yesterday that once Japan drops its remaining restrictions, the masses will return to Hawaii. The Hawaii Tourism Authority says in pre-pandemic 2019, nearly 1.6 million Japanese visitors came to the state. Get this, they accounted for about 12% of all visitor spending. A delegation from the Japan Association of Travel Agents is planning to promote Hawaii again.
So this is going to be part of our work now to go back to Japan and tell our customers that it is safe. Right now, there's an inbound cap into Japan of 10,000 people a day. So that remains still a slight impediment, but when that cap is lifted and taken out, that's when we're going to see real significant travel restart from Japan to Hawaii.
Experts say we could see a significant recovery by June. And here's what Governor David Ige is saying about this.
I'm just so excited that we can actually see the light at the end of the tunnel. We are working with them. It won't be an immediate, but they are definitely committed to restoring the flights to Hawaii and slowly building toward all throughout the remainder of the year.
Keep in mind, as of right now, there is no set date on Japan dropping its final restrictions.
Residents in Shanghai seem to be getting more frustrated with those strict COVID lockdown rules being imposed on the Chinese city. Selena Wang has more.
Anger is reaching a boiling point in Shanghai. Chinese social media showing residents in lockdown protesting, chanting, "We want jobs, we want freedom." Hundreds in one Shanghai neighborhood broke out of confinement, pleading for affordable food. This resident confronts the police, yelling, "Why are we being starved?" Residents in another neighborhood crowded at the gate inside their compound asking, "Why not put us all in prison? We've been locked in for 26 days anyway." Shanghai is now the center of China's worst crisis since the early days of the pandemic. Most of the city's 25 million residents are under strict lockdown with no clear end in sight. Residents aren't even allowed to briefly step outside. CNN filmed this man walking in his apartment compound. He was immediately escorted back home. Social media shows children, even infants, separated from their families at a Shanghai hospital after testing positive for COVID-19. Isolated alone, crying. CNN cannot independently verify the images, but spoke to a mother who was separated from her 2-year-old daughter. The hospital later said in a statement that it was moving its pediatric ward to make more room for COVID patients. CNN spoke to the daughter of this man who has late-stage stomach cancer. He's supposed to be hospitalized for chemotherapy, but isn't allowed to leave his apartment. He presses his chest in pain. In another heartbreaking case shared online, a woman is screaming in desperation for the paramedic to help an asthma patient. His heart has stopped, she said, pleading to borrow the ambulance's defibrillator. But the paramedics refused to help. Soon after, the patient died. Since confirming its first Omicron case in mid-December, mainland China's average new daily case count has surged from double digits to more than 9,000. There are more than 110,000 active cases and counting. But across China, every single case is required to stay at a hospital or quarantine center. Like this makeshift one in lockdown northeastern Jilin province. This patient describes the unsanitary conditions. He says, "There is nothing here. No masks, no medical alcohol, no disinfection. Look at the garbage, the toilets." And social media shows this chaotic scene outside a makeshift hospital in Shanghai. CNN spoke to a woman who was there. Patients battling for limited blankets and food, no medical staff in sight, as medical resources in the city are stretched to the limit. The outbreak in China's financial hub is a grim setback for China's economic recovery. To keep operations running, some businesses are quarantining their employees at the office. This video diary shows 75 office workers locked down in 3,000 square feet of space. The workers said they lived in the office for 12 days earlier in March. Shanghai, China's bustling cosmopolitan city, now a ghost town. While most of the world is learning to live with COVID, entire cities and provinces in China are grinding to a halt. But for how long and at what cost? Selena Wang, CNN, Tokyo.
Story there we'll certainly stay on top of here at This Is Now as well. Got to switch gears now, take you outside. Got really hot out there yesterday, even tied with some records. Here's Guy Hoggy with that update.
Yesterday, look how warm it was over in Maui. In fact, they tied the record for the day. Yesterday, despite all the cloud cover, Kahului got to 87. And with the clouds kind of retreating, we're expecting even warmer temperatures today. Here are the conservative estimates: 83 in Honolulu, 82 in Kahului, 82 in Kailua Kona. So we are going to also get building trade winds today. And then you got to add in those windward and Mauka showers. And really not much rain out there. Although for the Big Island, there's a chance for some heavy downpours this afternoon.
Severe weather has been slamming parts of the south. Let's turn things over to Mark Strassman with the developing details.
Those are pieces of the roof above where Cliff Horton was sheltering. A direct hit at Black Creek Golf Club in Elabel. He's okay. Tornadoes like that one and this one.
I have never in my life seen a tornado.
Were seen in the distance from Interstate 16 churning across southeast Georgia.
There's so much like whistling and howling, and the house is shaking, and our ears are just rapidly popping.
Bryan County's courthouse still stands, but its roof and surrounding buildings took a beating.
We're blessed that it wasn't a prolonged on-the-ground event, but where it did hit, it is complete devastation.
Just as in nearby neighborhoods where one woman was killed inside her mobile home, other houses flattened, crushed cars and trucks litter streets.
My son and my grandson had to get out the house because we were in a trailer. And so the trees were leaning like just way over. My heart was fluttering.
This woman's family was safe after a twister tore through her community in Elmore County, Alabama.
Lord help the ones that are in the path of that tornado.
In South Carolina, power lines exploded under the force of strong wind gusts that toppled trees and cut off roads. Mark Strassman, CBS News, Bryan County, Georgia.
Incredible video there. Let's get to some positive news, guys. What do you say?
What you got?
Yeah, here's what the internet's talking about, and getting a comeback for a Hollywood legend, big screen legend that is. Harrison Ford has had a long career, we all know that, Indiana Jones and so much more, but he's never had a lead role on a TV series. I find that so hard to believe, but that's what the CNN script says. The veteran actor is set to play a psychiatrist in the Apple TV Plus show. Shrinking is the name of the title. Is the title of the show. The comedy co-stars Jason Segel and is produced by the team that created the Emmy Award-winning Ted Lasso.
So comedy.
Yeah, comedy.
Cool.
He is funny. I mean, I've seen him in like Morning Glory. That was a great show. He's comedy. He's done several others. He can do it all.
Yeah, well, sticking with entertainment news, you guys, Will Smith could get hit with sanctions for slapping Chris Rock at the Oscars. Now, that will be up for discussion this Friday when the Board of Governors for the Academy of Motion Pictures, Arts and Sciences meets. Now, the meeting was initially scheduled for the 18th of this month, but the board decided to move it up, saying it's in everyone's best interest to handle this sooner rather than later. Now, Smith has already resigned from the Academy, but the board says they are considering disciplinary proceedings for violations of the Academy's standards of conduct. The slap happened after Rock made a joke about Jada Pinkett Smith's close cropped hair. She has alopecia. And not long after that, Smith went back on stage to accept the Best Actor Oscar for his role in the film King Richard.
People still talking about it.
Yep. And it seems like Pete Davidson has gotten his wish, and that's because during a digital short on Saturday Night Live, the comedian complained about the lack of short movies on Netflix. Well, apparently the streaming service was listening. Netflix has created a new category for films shorter than 1 hour and 40 minutes. Some movies on the list include Zoolander, Stand By Me, and Scary Movie 4 and 5.
Oh, okay. Another place to get good short videos is going to be a shameless plug, the Hawaii News Now streaming app.
Oh,
and that's
yes.
where you can also watch This Is Now every day.
Under an hour and 40 for sure.
24 minutes solid. No commercials. Yeah. Some good news now.
Yeah, this was interesting. So sticking with the entertainment theme, everyone, entertainment website Deadline is reporting that NBC's Peacock streaming service is developing a 1960s crime saga set in Hawaii. Now, the article says The Islands, which is inspired by true events, is a story about American imperialism, the fall of the Hawaiian Kingdom, and the changing way of life. Now, the writers from Marvel Studios' The Eternals are teaming up with a director from The Fast and the Furious and actor Steven Yeun. There's no word on a potential release date yet.
Exciting entertainment news today. That's going to do it for This Is Now. Ashley's coming back with you at 4 on KHNL. You don't want to miss it. I want to leave you now with a gorgeous scene from India. The tulip blooms there.
Ooh.
Seriously beautiful. Here you go.